Well, hello and welcome to today's very fascinating show. How do we get the change Ghana wants? How do we get the change that Ghana wants? Because you know what? Everyone is entitled to one vote, and some people indeed have argued that there are citizens who are not fit to vote. And the CDD is coming up with a report that may be proving them right. But that's what we're going to discuss today. Indeed, as you're going out there to the ballot to vote, what are your motives? Are you thinking if you're voting, let's say you live in Dansoman and you're voting, are you going to concern yourself that, let's say, poverty up north is alleviated and then the north-south divide is bridged? Or you're just worried about the potholes in Dansoman and therefore that's why I'm voting? Folks, there is a bigger challenge. Indeed, we've been going to the ballots since what, 1992. We are yet to do one, 7th November, 7th December, whatever the court says. And still, it's a very, very disappointing revelation. It's a very scary revelation. And I hope you are sitting with all the wax out of your ears, because you will be amazed what some people are doing and how indeed they are participating or contributing, or in fact maybe not contributing to national development. This will amaze you. Folks, my name is Nana Ansakwao, and also your host. When I come back, I'm talking to the guys who did this survey. Don't move. Well, hello and welcome again. How do we get the change that Ghana wants? Indeed, all the political parties are touting change, change, change. One is change is coming, and the other is vote for change. And so they're all saying change, change, change. And that's my opinion. On Monday, I was asking, what change are we talking about? And to hand on your heart, no one was able to call into the show to say A change or B change. It was just touting the slogan change. However, we would need people to go to the ballot box and vote so that we get this change. But before, let me just introduce my guest. Our guest is Dr. Franklin Odro, who's Deputy Director for CDD and also Head of Research and Programs. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
As for this hour, it's only God and country. If you see a guest here, you have to really, really appreciate that after a long day's work, they're able to come to studio at this hour to come and share their knowledge with us. But let me just read a little bit here. This is the No Poor Policy Brief, a study of voter expectations of MPs in Ghanaian constituencies with high incidence of poverty. Poverty indeed can be a massive disease, I'm telling you. This policy brief examines expectations, preferences, and behavior of Ghanaian voters towards their members of parliament during elections, informed by a study conducted in the constituencies with high incidence of poverty ahead of the 7th December, it says 2012 elections. The study revealed that Ghanaian voters, 44%, are very much interested in public affairs. The study further shows that 59% of Ghanaians actively participate in community meetings. In spite of the active nature of Ghanaian adults, in terms of interest and participation in public affairs, Ghanaians appear to have very limited knowledge and understanding of the core functions and responsibilities of MPs. For instance, the majority of respondents considered the ability of their MP to draw attention to developmental needs of the constituents, the provision of socio-economic development of constituents, and the lobbying of developmental projects as a core function and responsibility as against the constitutional assigned function, which are lawmaking, representation and oversight of the executive. Another significant revelation from the study, which is a determinant of a voting decision, is that 84% of the respondents indicated that they are to a large extent influenced by the extent to which a candidate can directly provide personal resource, provision of a developmental project in the constituency, and the ability of the candidates to help many people. That's not part of it, please. These findings show that voters' voting intent is not based on the competence of the candidate to perform their core mandate of MPs, but the ability of the MPs to provide developmental projects to the constituents. We recommend in this study the need for the intense and continuous civic and voter education by the Ghana's constitutional body, the National Commission for Civic Education, and other civil society organizations for citizens to appreciate the role of MPs, issues on elections and accountability, and above all on the civic and political rights of citizens. Now, this is dated April 2016. Doc, I'm shocked.
Well,
a little bit shocked. Well, no, I'm not a little bit shocked. I'm shocked.
Well, I mean, I guess there's a point to be
84%.
But it shouldn't be surprising to you and to many of us who have been following the politics, the electoral politics of this country. If you talk to many members of parliament privately, and you ask many of them why they are not going back, they've decided not to contest again, why many of them also probably lost their primaries. One of the major reasons that some of these MPs are signed relate to the fact that there is too much demand on them by the constituents to provide this personal and private goods to them. I know of a particular MP from a particular region that is a good friend of mine who keeps talking about is that anytime he goes to his constituency, the amount of money that he passed away with, he moved from one town to another, funerals, weddings, school fees, and if you don't do it, the argument is that you are not caring and you are not representing us enough. And so it is there, except that the MPs are not talking about it, but also because they also probably get the benefit in terms of being re-elected, those who are able to do that. And so it's sort of a patron-client system that is being built or has been built in Ghana's electoral and democratic politics. But it's a worrying finding in terms of the extent that voters or citizens appreciate and understand the role of a member of parliament. The fact that a member of parliament is not a developmental agent. The fact that voters and citizens have not taken interest in district chief executives and ministers, sector ministers, and executive, who are by and large responsible for the delivery of public goods and services. And I think that is something that all of us have to be concerned with. And so, to some of us, it wasn't too much of a concern, except that it is now backed with empirical evidence. Hitherto, you hear anecdotal evidence that some will tell you.
How was the sampling done? Because of the huge numbers, that's what I want to find. How was the sampling done?
So let me probably take a step back. That this exercise was part of a big research work that we started implementing from 2012, what we called enhancing knowledge for renewed policies against poverty, which has an acronym called the No Poor Project, for instance. And it's a global study that was being funded by the European Union in Brussels, being undertaken in about 22 countries from Asia, Latin America, Europe, Africa. And CDD was fortunate to be one of the 4 countries in Africa, that's Ghana, Senegal, Madagascar, South Africa, to be involved in this global research consortium that brought together think tanks, university scholars from these 22 countries, looking at various aspects of policies and programs to inform policy making in targeting poverty reduction. One of the, for Ghana, we looked at 6 research streams, but one of them was for us to look at issues around elections and post-elections accountability, and to what extent that citizens are able to demand accountability from elected officials. So because the focus was on poverty, we looked at 10 constituencies, one from each of the 10 regions. Constituencies that are highly endemic with poverty based on Ghana's Standard Living Survey and other statistical data that we were able to look at, to sort of get a sense of the residents in these poor constituencies, to what extent that elections and elected public officials can help in supporting poverty reduction. So it was random sample kind of process. We spoke to a total of about 1,200 respondents in these 10 constituencies. I must admit that 10 is not that huge number out of the 275 constituencies, but it sort of wanted to get a sense, some kind of indication as to what is the trend. And we asked several questions, including understanding of the role of a member of parliament, expectations of what the member of parliament should do. We wanted to test, first of all, how much do people appreciate and understand the core mandates of members of parliament. And then we also wanted to look at the voter intent, because this study was conducted prior to the December 2012 elections. And so we wanted to get a sense of the intent of voter. And the objective was to sort of find out how citizens using elections can be informed as to the role that members of parliament will be playing in the House of Parliament, targeting provision or enacting laws, providing oversight, proper oversight functions, reducing corruption, ensuring that the judicious use of resources, so that monies that are targeted for development, for poverty reduction, are properly used, so that, broadly speaking, you can help to reduce poverty in those constituencies. So that's what we wanted to look at. Okay. And it wasn't surprising to us in terms of some of the findings that people really were very much interested in what the member of parliament can provide. It speaks to the level of poverty, the level of deprivation, the level of expectations that people really are seeking from government officials.
What percentage does this group represent nationwide?
The respondents, or
the respondent. What percentage? Because I mean, yesterday we were doing a show on housing, and it turned out that there are over 5 million people living in slums nationwide. About 5 million people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. These, the people you spoke to, the respondents. I mean, what percentage of the population do they represent? I mean,
essentially, it will be a very insignificant number if you depending on the number, the target. If you take the voter population, so 18 years and above, and if you consider that in 2012 the voter population was it 40 million?
Yeah, thereabout.
Then and out of 1,200 is very...
No, not the 1,200. What I'm saying, let's say the the wage or the income level, what percentage would that be, nationwide? I mean, are they people who earn between, let's say, 100 and 200 CDs? So
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the data, but we collected that, all those demographic data we do have, but we don't have.
Because I just wanted to find out if it's a quarter of the population that think like that, if it's half, one third that are thinking like that. That was I was trying to.
It's something that we can provide, but I don't have them. But I think it's also important for me to point out that because the constituencies that were selected were poverty ridden constituencies, a lot of the respondents were people who were not highly educated, farmers and first basic school graduates, and a few of them were secondary and tertiary. So you could also want to look at that, and we haven't done those cross tabs to look at respondents who have secondary education and their thinking, and primary education and their thinking. But I think the bottom line, and something that all of us have to be very concerned and interested in, is to what extent that our electoral politics, our democracy, voting intent of the public is informed by policy issues and directing issues to aspirants and candidates to demand from them what they will do in terms of their role when they get elected.
Doc, the argument is that I think America went through about 46 amendments before everybody could vote. I mean, when they started, if you don't pay tax, hold on. Let those who pay tax decide who's going to manage it. Those who are not educated, well, if you don't understand what's going on, wait. And then gradually, once everybody understood what the stakes were, they then were allowed to vote. Because of political correctness, we've opened the floodgate. I mean, could we, say, look, there's an exam, you go into the room, and if you can write and understand what's going on, there's your vote, go and vote, or the floodgates. Because it could be the one person, the 50+1 who tips everything upside down for everybody. So, I mean, what should we do?
Well, I mean, I can sympathize with the point that you're making, but I don't think that is in this day and age, 21st century, and when we have universal adult suffrage, which is not tied to properties or sex or something. You recall in the past, women were not even until the 1950s or so that women in most part of Europe were given the franchise to vote. I think that every adult Ghanaian or citizen should have the right to elect who they want to represent them or to govern them. I don't think that we should discriminate with respect to either being educated or not being educated. Sometimes I think those that we think are not educated could be smarter than even those of us that we think we are educated. I think what is happening, and this is my interpretation, is what is happening is these voters are exercising what? A rational choice agenda. That we vote for these guys, they go out there, we never hear from them again until the next 4 years. So what is it that I can get today, now, and if I can hold them, so they are rational. They are rational by asking them that you have to pay my child's school fees. It may be illogical rationality, but there's a sense of what what they are doing. It's not that they don't know. I remember when we shared this.
Before you move on, let me take a quick break, and then when I come back, Doc raised that this is the 21st century, and therefore we can go back, all those days, making amendments before we get everybody in. But in the same 21st century, according to this results, 75% of the respondents in this category says they never bothered to get the news from a newspaper. 86% said internet, forget it. We don't get anything from internet. You know, most of them get news from their friends and relatives, and then obviously the good old radio getting them the information. The other day I was saying that, you know, how much exposure do these radio presenters have? Because whatever they are spewing out, there's somebody out there taking it gospel, and it's still the same 21st century. So we need to look at it again. And it's 0560 800 000. Let's all talk about this issue. We're coming straight back. How do we get the change that Ghana wants? And I'm talking to Dr. Franklin Odro, Head of Research and Programs, and also Deputy Director for CDD. But hey, those of you, all the football lovers, Ghana Premier League shows every Saturday on your leading channel, that's Adom TV. And for all the cheers, GSTs, suspense and thrills, don't miss the Never Say Die, Accra, Hadsufok, the Fabulous, Kumasi, Asante Kotoko, the Mysterious, Ebusunya Dwa, Secondly, Hazakes, and the new kids on the block, Mediama Liberty Professionals, Brekum Chelsea, Techiman City, Wild Stars, New Odubiasi, and all other Premier Giants on your favorite channel, Adom TV. That's on every Saturday, and it's Ghana Premier League only on Adom TV. Adom TV is saying, yeah, Wazoye, so all you football lovers, do not miss it. But Doc, just before the break, it was getting very interesting. That in the 21st century, maybe through no fault of theirs, maybe denied opportunity, they missed FQ somewhere, so here they are, and we put news on the internet and we expect them to go and get it. We put news in the newspaper, we expect them to read it, even though we haven't given them that talent. However, we have given them the power that, even though you don't understand what the governance is, you think the MP is a developmental guy, still go out there and find out the best developmental guy you think to go and vote. And most of them will vote for those who come to the funeral often, those who pay a lot of school fees, philanthropists, you know, and so here we are. And so clearly, you know, there are people in there who are popular candidates rather than competent candidates.
Yeah.
So should some votes be stripped?
Well,
until we can, I mean, NCC comes in here so that if you can enlighten people to a stage where you think, look, now just about maybe 2% of people who don't get it wrong, but 98% really understand the nitty-gritty.
Well, I mean, I still hold the position that we should not discriminate by virtue of we considering a group of people as not being educated or not knowing what to do right. Because as you know, sometimes it's not always the case that majority is right. We keep saying majority is always, but it's not always the case. And I think, for me, what is missing in our body politics is an enhanced civic and voter education, what some of us would call democratic citizenship. How much have we done as a country to extend and deepen democratic understanding, values and tenets and principles of democracy, what elections are meant to be, and how voters and citizens should view elections? I think there's a huge gap there. Unfortunately, the constitutional organization, the National Commission for Civic Education that we have, that the constitution that we've all endorsed has entrusted to do this exercise, has historically, during the Fourth Republic, not been properly resourced.
We don't even have cars.
You don't have
last
cars.
time I spoke to you, they had 8 cars.
And it seems to me that, in fact, and it's not only this government, since 92, all the regimes that have come have not shown the commitment and the seriousness and support for the NCC. And it baffles me that we were all in this country and we saw the speed in which our president and our government quickly replaced Dr. Farijan when he retired by appointing Mrs. Charlotte Osei to be the Electoral Commission chair. As we speak now, she has not been replaced at the NCC. So it tells me that we don't have any import. We don't attach importance to that commission. We discriminate in terms of even the institutions. Meanwhile, the NCC, the Electoral Commission, the National Media Commission, all have the same constitutional in terms of legal support. And we have not bothered that if we're going to sort of think that if we're going to have good elections, if we're going to have violence-free elections, we need to educate citizens. We need to expand civic and voter education. And one of the bodies that can do that is the NCC. And yet, nobody's paying attention to that. And I think it's very unfortunate. It's sort of sometimes, and I feel that it's deliberate on the part of government not to ensure that citizens get educated so that they can know their rights and responsibilities and contest the legitimacy of regimes. Sometimes I wonder why we have not shown that kind of commitment in the same way that we've shown in other institutions like the Electoral Commission, even the Bank of Ghana, when it didn't take a week or two when a new governor was appointed. But if you want citizens to handle currencies well, not to abuse our currency, in that case, you think the Bank of Ghana is important. You also need to educate citizens on how to control our currency. But we are not really doing that. And I think, we are the cause of some of these findings that we are seeing. But I think I don't subscribe to using or looking at these findings and suggesting that because of this, then we should find a way to not to allow many people to vote because of the way they are going to vote. I think we need to do more.
But are we not being politically correct to our own detriment? Because you see, the people who we follow did not open the floodgates when their citizens did not understand the nature of governance. And let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, we were looking for an Mbranti Hine at Dumasa. And the vetting that went on in a space of 20 minutes, this guy doesn't come, he won't do it, he won't do it. And they were desperate to find the right Mbranti Hine. Eventually we found one. But like you're saying, if he came to an MP, I don't think they'll say, oh, this guy understands law, or look, he votes against GMO, or look, this guy is not for Freeport, or, so let's go for him. I don't think they would have done that.
But that's why I say it's a responsibility for all of us, including the media. And so, for instance, I was so happy that this study also revealed that radio is a major source of information for a lot of these citizens. And this has been consistently for a while now. So what would be the role of the media in terms of educating and exposing citizens to some of these issues that you are raising? I think all of us need to step up. There are ways that we can explain and educate people without necessarily using English language in terms of what they should be looking for when they want to vote for a candidate.
Let me give some of the numbers to the viewers, because maybe you don't know why we're talking about these numbers. Okay, source and frequency of access to news on public affairs. So they were asking the respondents, where do you get your news from? 12% said, look, they never get any news, forget it. They never get news. And then 2% says once in a month, they sort of chase the news. 8% said a few times in a month they catch up with the news. And then 27% said a few times in a week. Every day was 51%. These are all radio. These are all who get news from the radio. So 12% said, look, forget it. I don't listen to the news. 2%, once a month. 8% a few times in a month. 27% a few times in a week. And then 51% daily wakes up in the morning, back, radio on, getting information on public affairs. On television, 43% said, nope, they never ever watch the news on TV. 5% says once in a month they will switch on the TV and catch the news. 12% says a few times in a month they will catch the news on TV. 19% says a few times in a week they will. And then 21% says every day they turn on the TV to catch the news. Newspapers, 75%, forget it. They never buy any newspaper to read the news. 75%. 5% says once in a month, maybe I'm sure when they catch a nice picture on the front page, they'll buy it and see. A few times in a month, 7%. Few times in a week, 5%. And every day, 3%. 3%. Internet, 86% says no. We never go onto the internet for any news. 2% says once in a month. 4% says a few times in a month. 3% says a few times in a week, and 2% says every day they log on to my Joy Online to see what's happening. And then those who get news from friends and family, 14% says forget it. They don't even talk to any friends and family about news. 6% says less than once in a month. 15% says a few times in a month. 29% says a few times in a week. 34% says every day they are talking to their friends and family to find out what's current affairs. So this is what we are talking about, and
so what in effect they suggest that the Ghanaian adults are active, right? The fact that they engage their family members, their friends to discuss issues on politics and public affairs. They're active, but I think the activeness should correspond to some kind of rational or intelligent outcomes. One of the studies we did some time ago, is not in this particular one, that we also asked respondents about the sources of news and also what kind of news they listen. One of the things that came out strangely was the fact that yes, they are active, they listen to news, but they get confused. And part of it is because of the way we have polarized and our discussions on radios and stuff like that. And you have 2 or 3 political party operatives, communicators, and the same subject matter, the same animal, but everybody is taking it from a different angle. And so when voters, they just confused to who's telling the truth. Who's telling the truth? Yeah, and that is problematic in terms of our political actors and the kind of communication that we do.
We're going to go to the next one, which is political initiatives. When respondents, when asked, do you contact your political party official? Do you contact your assemblyman or woman? Contact your member of parliament? Use force or violence for a political cause? Attend a demonstration or protest march? To get together with others to raise an issue? Attend community meetings. Give you some of the response to that. But let me catch up with some of your messages. 0560 800 000. This is Kobaji in Berima Kobaji in Jine. The findings of the CDD research is simply spot on. If that were not so, why would people still have the gut and the effrontery to whip up support for an MP like, how can I, my brother, how can I even continue reading your message? Let me go here. This is Yarrow from Northern Region, Wale Wale, and I think in order for us to gain this, we all need to be patriotic. Talking about the change, right? The only thing we need is not to change GDP, but rather change in the GMA, gross mental attitude. This is Sniper in Tema. Okay, Sniper. This one says, "Nana, good evening. I am very happy for the topic today. It's obvious that electorate vote based on what they will in fact get from casting their vote to a particular political party. It's not their doing, but the doing of those who seek for the political mandate. So far as they enrich themselves from the state, it is believed by vulnerable electorates that they can provide whatever they promise and demanded by voters. It is about time for electorates to come to the realization that whatever individuals obtain from any person seeking for political power cannot demand any developmental project in his or her catchment area. In most developed countries, it is the electorate who contribute to political organizations to function properly. Nana, Ghanaians should learn to know politicians are there to develop the entire society, but not the individual. This is Kingsford in Bolgatanga. Kingsford, thank you for that. This one says, I'm not surprised at the results of the survey. It only means that Ghanaians generally believe those they vote for only go to public office for their personal gains. So tell me, why I should vote having the nation at heart? The next survey should also go into reasons behind reasons. Ahimfo, Cape Coast, has given you an assignment. The reasons behind reasons. Let me catch up with one and then come to studio. Okay, this is not for us here. We must change behavior and move forward as a country. Nana, I once suggested to a lawyer friend that can't we pass a bill to let the voter populace be those who can read and understand the manifesto and the policies of the various parties? Because looking at the basis they use to vote, she said that that should be it, but also tantamount to disenfranchising them. But in my candid opinion, I think at least anybody who is voting should be able to read and write, because democracy is expensive. This is Fred in Ashoman. So Fred is sort of singing my vote. Now, with regards to the questions, how many of you guys contact your political party? 32% said yes, 66% said no, we don't. Do you contact your assemblyman or woman? 35% said yes, 64% no. I'm surprised. Well, the assemblyman is always in Emehu, so I'm surprised they don't contact the assemblyman or woman. Contact your member of parliament. 21% said yes, 77% said no, we don't contact our member of parliament. Use force or violence for a political cause. 2% said yes, 97% said no, I'm not going to do that. Attend a demonstration or protest march. 7% said yes, 92% again, I'm not going to do that. Attend get together with others to raise an issue. 47% yes, 52% no. Attend community meetings. Everybody does. 59% said yes, we do attend community meetings, but 40% said no. So basically, they will go to the meetings, they will hear all the problems, but
they won't. Yeah, and that is the and this is not just this survey. Past surveys that I've been involved with. If you take Afro Barometer, we take many of the governance surveys that CDD or other institutions have done. There's a sense of contradiction somewhere, that respondents and Ghanaians, talk about public affairs. They are not happy with certain things, but when you ask them, how would you join forces to protest legitimately, legally? They say no. Would you contact your MP? They say no. In fact, there is that particular issues around elected officials, citizens, relations, it works in two ways. One, there is a sense that Ghanaians generally are not making the effort to contact the elected officials. And then on the other hand, the elected officials themselves are also not making themselves available. How many of our MPs do have constituency office? So
hold a surgery on a certain day so that you can go and see them.
No, many of them don't have. In fact, and that's why they always complain that when they go to their constituencies, people besiege them in their houses.
Some sneaking and sneaking.
Sneaking and sneaking. Yeah. So there is no space for the voter or the citizen to go and look for the elected officials because they haven't made themselves available. And so there's some sense of, well, why would I even go to look for this person? In fact, I'll give you examples now. I live at Dome, right, in my community. I've been, and because of these roads and erosions and stuff like that, I've been trying to even see my assembly man. I don't even know. I've been asking around, where can I find this gentleman? This gentleman. And nobody seems to know whether there's a sign here and say, look, if you want to see me, this is where. It doesn't exist. So we elect these officials, whether assembly man or woman, or and then disappear.
I must say that my assemblyman is very, very effective. Honestly, my Dumasan assemblyman is on point. Look,
good for you.
Before I pick up the phone to say, look, I'm complaining about Zenana, I've already reported it. I've already done it. So I, hats up to my assemblyman.
I'm sure there are effective ones. But
he is very effective.
By and large, that is missing, and that also speaks to accountability. That the unavailability of elected officials, the challenge or the difficulty of citizens reaching out to elected officials also undermine accountability, effective accountability in terms of vertical accountability. That if I voted for you, I need you to come and account to me your stewardship at the National Assembly. How many of our MPs do that? And this is where the questions you asked earlier, this is where a citizen can ask the MP, so how many laws have you passed? And this particular law, what was your position on this? So whether it's
EPA,
GMO, Freedom of Information Law, there should be a space for citizens to ask, okay, I've heard about this law. What is your position on this? Is your position representing my interest or not? But that is something that 20 years plus of our democracy is huge. And if we don't build on this accountability mechanism where elected officials know that they have to account back to their citizens, then our democracy will suffer. And that's why we cannot, we talk about lack of oversight function of Parliament, the core mandates, the representation, oversight, and lawmaking. How much do citizens know how well the MPs are doing? I think there's something that we need to look at.
Let me catch up some of your messages. Now, the Constitution talks about allowing people of sound mind to vote. My problem is, do people who vote based on the stature of the candidate and on tribal issue really of sound mind? We really need to interrogate what sound mind means in Ghanaian political dispensation. Redu in Kumasi. And the messages are coming quick. Let me try and gather a quick. This one says, it implies that the Ghanaian electorate need a lot of education as to why they should vote, the role of the MP and other organs of the government. This is Alhaj Kums in Yendi. Let me say that we tried getting NCCE, but for one reason or the other, they couldn't join us. We tried to get the NCCE to come and tell us what their challenge is and how we can help them so we can extend this education, but they couldn't make it. Our educational schedule shows that 400,000 primary, and by the time they get to JSS, I think it's 400,000 in primary, and by the time they get to JSS exam, BC had 80,000, and at SHS we have 4. No, so I think it's 4. But the numbers really drop, as you're saying that the numbers drop, and by the time they get to tertiary, the number becomes 30,000. And therefore all the technological news sites is available only to a few. When the pension is being charged in 2010, there are only 90,000 on the social security data. We have to open the gate wide, and that is the report we will continue to get. You're trying to give me some good figures, but I can't get it properly. You see this change is a broad spectrum, but we only make change. We can only make change Ghana wants if we devoid cheating and corruption in our leadership and social work we find ourselves in. As for this change, one day somebody will tell us what change. Wahab from Achim Toprem in Zongo. It says, please ask Solomon that how much does the government owes. Oh, I think you sent your message to the wrong one. I frankly agreed with the CDD research because there are some parliamentarians who don't deserve to be there, yet they are there because of personal favor from electorate. Therefore, I think the NCCE should do much education to educate the voters on the basis of electing competent candidates who can contribute meaningfully to the constituency you find yourself. Sule from Techiman. Good evening to you, Sule. This one says, good evening, Nana, and your guest. I don't see Ghana getting the change that we want until Ghanaians and politicians in particular put Ghana first instead of defending their political parties irrespective of the cost to the nation. We have a long way to go if this canker is not changed. Safo Kantanka in Kasoa. Thank you, Nana, for this good job. God bless you. Politicians want people's ignorant so they can always take advantage of them during elections. Ghanaians or Africans have not grown enough for democracy. The high corruption we are seeing is because politicians hide behind democracy to corrupt, knowing very well they will not be taken to court and be covered by their parties. This is a CB in Bolga. But just as you're saying, I mean, I'm not going to mention the party, but one of the big parties and the candidates, I've seen his pictures all over the place in my town. So one day he calls me and I said, you are hoping to go and represent me, and I haven't met you, and I am a community leader. So, I mean, how do you even know my interest to go and represent me? And I'm sure it happens all over the place. How do you know my interest to go and represent me if you haven't met me? And I'm a community leader. So, like you're saying, maybe we need to. But this one, maybe this is obvious because of the caliber of people you interviewed. Things like writing letters to newspaper, 4% said yes. Writing letter to petition an MP, 7%. Get religious leaders to talk to MP, it went up to 10%. Call into a radio station or television morning show to register, complain, 13%. Get local council representative, assemblyman or woman, 20%. Get political party, local executive to talk to him or her, 23%. Get traditional leaders to talk to the MP, 23%. Question MP during public meeting forum, then 29%. So if they see him, they will talk to him. Have a discussion with the MP in person, 37%. And those who just don't know what to do, 87%. I'm coming straight back. 87% live in a community, and if there's a problem, they just don't know what to do to the MP, whether talk to him direct, whatever it is. They're just there and hoping to God that don't move. How do we get the change that Ghana wants? And everyone has one vote, whether you're president, whether you live in the lowest of all the slums, you have one vote. And so if we all have a change, collectively we need to go and make the change. And here we are with some people, making some really, really tough decisions based on maybe how hungry they are or how desperate they are. But when we're talking about, the a connection with the MP, and the 37% said yes. We have a personal interaction with the MP. Now, it's not a personal interaction because there's, GMO or there's something. No. It's like, look, I need hospital fees, I need a funeral fees, and that 37%, that's the interaction they have with the MP. Could it be that because of the style of campaigning, maybe I may say, I'll bring a river and put a bridge on it, that sort of over-promising, that make people also think, well, this guy must be really loaded, and therefore, why don't I give him a chance and then go and shower him with my problems?
And I think there's a lot to do with that as well, because I think there's too much promises in our election process, and promises that candidates know very well that they cannot do that, or they are not responsible for. And so the moment you do that, then you also plant in the minds of voters that you said you're going to do that, and therefore the person also expects those promises from you. I remember in 2012, one of the things that we did was candidates debate. We did parliamentary candidate debates in selected constituencies throughout the country. For the first time, we've been doing this since 2004. So for the first time, we included what we call post-election accountability. So we documented all the promises that the aspirants were making on the platforms. And those who won after the elections, we compiled those promises, and we said, well, we want to send these promises back to the constituency so that they can hold you accountable. So before we did that, we wrote to all the MPs, and then we sent copies to them. And some came and said, no, we didn't say that. I said, we have you on tape. And then they said, okay, now. One of the funny things was that we also did posters, and then sort of put, okay, Nana said the build clinic and stuff like that. I remember when my colleagues took some of the posters to some MPs. They said, yes, we said we'll build clinic, but we didn't say high-rising clinic. So why have you drawn high-rising? So, and then they started sort of pushing back. But there were some of them, in fact, many of them did go back on a platform that we provided for them to sort of account back to the people. And it was very interesting in terms of what they've been able to do. But I think the point here is that a member of parliament is not a developmental agent. And so when you go campaigning and you go make promises of building schools, building roads, clinics, and those kind of promises, people are going to hold you accountable for that. But you can't do some of those things.
I think the best one I had was, and this is a true story, right? A very honest man on a campaign platform and trying to be very honest. And the guys campaigning with us said, look, Jack, if you don't make any promises, we're going to lose. So just as they were leaving, the guys come back. Indeed, they were talking to the Muslims in the community. Said, look, you don't have a mosque. Honorable says when he comes, he's going to build a mosque. So when he left and he says, look, what if I don't build a mosque? He said, look, 2,000 years ago when Jesus was going, he promised he's going to come back. Has he come? Who's holding him? Look, make the promises and let's win our vote. But this one says, Dear Nana, this is a message that came. It came, this is Prince Gazi of Boise Mines. He said, Dear Nana, our educational schedule shows that 4 million in primary schools, by the time they get to JHS exams, BEC had, BC has 800,000, and then SHS we have now dropped down to 400,000. By the tertiary, the number comes to 300,000, and therefore all the technological news sites is available to only a few. When the pension was being changed in 2010, there were only 909,800 on the Social Security data. We have opened the gate wide, and that is the report we would continue to get. That was from Prince Gazi. So Prince, I read your message again. But I think the onus is on NCC now, And the media, I guess, and the media.
And also, of course, some of our civil society organizations that are into democracy and governance. I think we all have to play a role. We need to step up. We need to intensify education. We need to strengthen the accountability mechanisms. We need to more or less, force elected officials to account. And the more we do that, the more they also will be circumspect in terms of going on election platform and
hold them to account. But judging by this, there's a lot of people who are scared to approach them and hold them to account. But I want to say thank you very much to Tantiz, who makes my shirts for the show. You can reach Tantiz on 024 366 2001 024 366 2001. You can get them on WhatsApp as well. So WhatsApp them. If you take a picture of a shirt I'm wearing, I'm sure they can do it for you. Or if you want your own design, why not? But thank you so much, Doc, for coming in to explain to us. Had this interesting discussion. I'm sure we're all concerned, and that if we need that change that everybody's starting for, either change is coming or vote for change, this is what we have to rely on. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
PM Express.